Hello there guys, welcome to another of my live videos, and I do believe that Manchester United need at least 4, 5 or maybe even 6 more signings, if we are to be if we are to be back, to being a competitive elite level football club, and of course, if we are, to be a future title contenders now. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been assured, that he will get, money to spend in January, and obviously, we are already, making plans for the January transfer window, and I think, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still keen on continuing the policy of signing young British players, like he did do earlier on in the summer. But we are aware that further more investment is needed in the squad. I also do believe that despite the fact a lot of players have now left since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's arrival, I still believe these more problematic players in the football club. But I've identified the areas where I think Manchester United do need to strengthen up. Obviously, we've got to try and get a midfielder in January, because that's one of the priority areas where Manchester United do need to strengthen up, because we've got to obviously add depth in that midfield. Obviously, we need to recruit a replacement for Ander Herrera. Obviously, as well, Manchester United do need a striker. Basically we need a goal scorer, because we need to see inspiration in that attacking third in the pitch. And I think we do look totally exposed in that attacking line. Following the dismissal of Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez, and obviously due to the injury of Anthony Martial. So that attacking line is one of the priority areas where Man United need to strengthen up. Don't forget, for the majority of the summer as well, was in search for right winner. But I credit Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the aspect that he did recommend 3 good signings to the squad during the summer. Obviously we spent a substantial amount. We spent nearly £150 million on Daniel James, and Wan-Bissaka, and on Harry Maguire, and we have seen glimpses of what good signings they've proven to be so far. So it's good in the aspect that we did address some of the problematic areas. We got that experienced centre half in. We also got that right back in. But obviously during the summer, we didn't address all the problematic areas. But I did say, it's going to be extremely difficult for us, to address all the problematic areas in one summer transfer window. Now, obviously, we do know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is under immense pressure at the football club, and obviously, the vast majority of Manchester United fans now do want him out. And I did initially say, he hasn't got that intuition as a manager. He hasn't really got that managerial experience, not really to the highest level, because obviously before he came up to Manchester United, obviously Solskjaer was at Mould. Obviously he won a couple of Norwegian titles at Mould. Obviously before he was at Mould, he had a really short tenure with Cardiff. I think he only lasted around 30 games for Cardiff, and he obviously ended up getting Cardiff relegated. But like I did say, we are enjoying our worst start to a Premier League season for 3 decades. So the last time we had as bad a start as this was obviously back in 1989 and that. And you can say we are facing a relegation battle at this present time. We're sitting only 2 points above relegation. We actually as well have the 4th worst record in the Premier League since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got the job permanently. I think we've only registered 17 points from our last 17 games, and I think the only teams that have got the worst records than us is Brighton, Watford, and Southampton. So that indicates how embarrassing Manchester United are at the moment. And since he got the job permanently, I think we've only won 5 of our last 23 games, and I think that is in all competitions as well. But basically, everything needs to improve at Manchester United. Obviously the results need to improve, the performances need to improve. Our away form needs to improve. I think it's 11 away games now that Solskjaer has had without a win at Manchester United. The last time we won away from home, obviously, was the PSG game last season. Obviously, when we did produce that miraculous comeback, obviously that was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's most iconic moment as manager. I think also our home form needs to improve, the style of play needs to improve in that. But I did say, reflecting on our inconsistency, I think, the blame, stems from everybody. And like I've been saying, it is a mixture. But I think the vast majority of the blame does stem from the board. And recently, Gary Neville had criticised the board, but like I said about Gary Neville recently, he is a respectable pundit. Obviously his intuition on football and that's obviously not very good. And you'll get a lot of Man United fans not only criticising Solskjaer, they'll also criticise the board. There's a lot of Man United fans also demanding Ed Woodward out of the football club. But the main reason I blame the board mostly is because obviously with the poor recruitment, obviously with the poor selection of managers, obviously the board he didn't back Ole Gunnar Solskjaer enough, during the summer. But I think actually, the board have actually, realised that they didn't back Solskjaer enough during the summer. So I think they didn't, as you say, at the start of this season, regardless of what happens this season, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job, should be safe at least until May. I think also a lot of the players have got to take responsibility because, the vast majority of them have been underperforming so far this season. So, we are 8 games now into the Premier League season. Obviously, we've only won 2 games this season. We've drawn 3 and of course we have lost 3, so in that aspect we've only registered 9 points from possible 24, and obviously we do know that's nowhere near good enough to our standards. And like I did say, we've got to start getting better results in that, and obviously we've got to put a performance out against Liverpool after the international break. Obviously, as you all know, recent reports did say not too long ago actually, if we are to suffer a heavy defeat to Liverpool, that could put Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job in serious jeopardy. And it did also say he will fear getting the sack. But actually now there has been a change in scenery. So if we are now to obviously lose to Liverpool heavily, according to recent reports, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will not be sacked, because I think recent reports have said that it's been assured that Solskjaer's job is going to be safe for at least the next couple of games. But he did reveal how much it will cost the football club, to get rid of Solskjaer, and obviously Manchester United will probably... What? No, going on PS4 in a minute. Going on PS4 in a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Manchester United, will have to pay around £7 million in compensation, to get rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I think that's half than what we paid to get rid of Jose Mourinho, because I think the club paid around £20 million, to get rid of Jose Mourinho and that. But yeah, like recent reports have also said that, we're set to target 8 signings over the course of the next 2 summers. So some people are still, certain fans and, certain pundits and that are still saying maybe we should give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer more time at the football club. We should give him at least a couple more windows, to see who else, he can recommend in to the football club, because obviously you can still quite frankly say Solskjaer is still in the process of rebuilding. Obviously, analysing the majority of this Manchester United squad, obviously it isn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's. Actually, the majority of this team is actually Jose Mourinho. So what you've got to take into account is that Solskjaer is obviously inheriting the vast majority of Jose Mourinho's players. But definitely reflecting on our bad performances and our bad results, definitely Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is accountable for that. Obviously, some of his tactics and that are questionable, and I will admit we are tactically inept. But definitely, Solskjaer, has got to take some responsibility. But I know his tenure at Manchester United, he's not going to become successful. And in a way, I do feel sorry, for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because, I think the club have obviously, put him in a difficult position. I think, we also, should have never, give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job. And I think, the only reason that the board are sticking with Solskjaer at this present time is because... they're sticking with him at this present time is because obviously, he was a club legend, was Solskjaer. He was a great player for Manchester United for 11 years, He flourished under Alex Ferguson's guidance and that. Obviously, one of his most iconic moments as a player, obviously, was back in 1999, of course, when he did win the club, the treble and that, with a goal, goal he scored. So he has got that proven pedigree as a player and that. But, I have got some element of concerns about Solskjaer. I also got credit him because obviously he has got a lot of faith in his young players, and like I said, we have got a lot of young players in the squad that are developing and trying to improve at Manchester United. But at the moment we are sitting 12th in the league, and I did initially say at the end of last season, and I said at the start of this season, that obviously our expectations this season will be to finish in that top 4 and perhaps maybe win some silverware. And did say that obviously Solskjaer has got to exceed expectations at Manchester United. I did say it's very imperative that we get back into the Champions League, because obviously I think that was one of the main factor reasons that went against us as well during this summer. Obviously, we failed to qualify for the Champions League, and obviously when you're not in Champions League football. Obviously, it's going to be hard to attract players to the elite level and that. But I do believe a lot of the players we was in for during the summer, who of course the club didn't manage to get, probably more than likely will reignite our interest in some of them in January. Maybe we'll leave some until next summer. But yeah, we're enjoying a worse season this season than what we saw last season. Last season was bad enough because we finished 6th last season. And I think that was the lowest we finished as well. Since the David Moyes era and that. But like I mentioned, Solskjaer overall has been at Manchester United now just under a year, so he's been here around 10 months. Obviously, he's endured this difficult 7-month tenure at Manchester United and that, because obviously we do know it's all gone wrong, since he got the job permanently. But obviously, when he came in December of last year, Solskjaer, obviously, he came in at the first term as the interim manager. Obviously, he did really, really well as interim manager, and he was interim manager for 3 months and that. And even when he was interim, Solskjaer won his first 8 games. Obviously he won 14 out of 19 in total, and he got given the job after he was interim and that, and he exceeded expectations when he was the interim. But soon since he got the job permanently, everything of course has just seemed to have all gone wrong. So for me, the board will not stick with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but could possibly be given till January to see who else he can recommend into the football club. Obviously we do know that there has been a list of managers on our agenda, who could replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. So yeah, so I've got some other news I want to give you guys an update on as well. So I'm going to give you some news, what players I think, Man United are going to go in for in January and that. But recently there's been a player named who Manchester United are interested in, and he's called Mathias Norman. He does play in Russia for Rostov now. Reportedly, he's attracting interest from Manchester United. Is this player, and I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is keen on recommending him in to the football club, probably perhaps in January. I should presume. Now, obviously, he's 23 years of age. I think he mainly operates as a box-to-box midfielder. I think he also had the Russian Premier League Player of the Month back in September, probably reflecting on his impressive performances. I think he's valued up to around £20 million. So obviously he's a cheaper alternative, and obviously no need to recommend a midfielder, and probably we are seeing him as a replacement for Ander Herrera. I think he joined Rostov just earlier on this summer. Obviously he's actually played under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's guidance, because don't forget he was on loan with Mold. Was Mathias Norman and that. So probably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is keen on reuniting with the player. Before he was at Mold, he served a couple of years with Brighton. Obviously, he didn't make one first team appearance, for Brighton, I think, in the 2 years, he was there. So I do think he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. Very, very young, still got a lot of development minimum and that. But yeah, reportedly, Manchester United are interested in him and that. And £20 million is a reasonable figure. And like I did say to you, that we should try to be sensible of our recruitment, and analysing our recruitment policy it isn't too good, to be quite honest with you. But like I did say, a hell of a lot of money has been spent at Manchester United in the last 6 or 7 years. A lot of money's been invested into the football club, and always spending big on players and getting them Galactico players does not always guarantee you success. And obviously we're known for overpaying for players, and when it does come to letting them go, we seem to let them go for next to nothing. We've done it in recent years. Obviously there's been prime examples of it this summer. So would you be excited about the prospects of Mathias Norman coming in and that? I think also Tottenham and Sevilla are also interested in the player. But there's other players who Manchester United could go in for. We could go back in for Sean Longstaff in January. He's another player Manchester United could go in for, because don't forget, we was in for Sean Longstaff during the course of the summer. Obviously there's been recent talks about Moussa Dembele. Obviously we're probably seeing him as an adequate replacement for Romelu Lukaku. He probably cost the club in the excess of around 50 or 60 million. Don't forget, towards the back end of the window, Manchester United inquired about getting Dybala and obviously Mandzukic. Don't forget, we inquired about getting Jadon Sancho earlier on in the summer. Don't forget, we identified Jadon Sancho as our number one priority target back in January. Obviously, our move for Jadon Sancho never materialised. Obviously, with our failure to qualify for the Champions League. And obviously we know that obviously Jadon Sancho is going to cost the club a substantial amount. probably, we're going to have to pay in the excess around at least £100 million to convince Dortmund to offload him. But if we are to reignite our interest in Sancho, it's probably more than likely we'll go in for him next summer. Obviously, Jadon Sancho is primarily a right winger, but I think it's confirmed that he is going to be staying at Dortmund for at least this season. But like I said, if Jadon Sancho did come in, the club have obviously got the financial power to meet his valuation, that because we're a massive club, we've got obviously massive revenues and that. I know we're millions of pounds in debt, but we still can afford to pay that huge valuation. But he would Jadon Sancho, if he came in, he would add more inspiration in that attacking third of the pitch. I think he would link up well alongside the likes of Rashford, Daniel James and Anthony Martial. So I would be excited about the prospect of him coming in. And it's also beneficial as well because obviously, Jadon Sancho, has had experience of playing in the Premier League. He served a couple of years there with Manchester City, did Jadon Sancho. Obviously, never got really assured for team opportunities at City, and this is the main reason why I left City to join Borussia Dortmund. And now he's been at Borussia Dortmund 2 years. He's now into his third season at Borussia Dortmund, and he's actually done really, really well. So if he came back to the Premier League, Sancho, I think it would be beneficial for his career, and it would help him more, with his development. And he is still only 19 years of age. Obviously Christian Eriksen, don't forget, we inquired about getting Christian Eriksen towards the back end of the window as well, don't forget. I think, he still remains on Real Madrid's agenda. There's Christian Eriksen, and obviously, there's a chance that they could get him on a free transfer. Obviously, Christian Eriksen's current deal does come to an end, I think, at the end of this season. Obviously, I think, Real Madrid are still in for him, like I mentioned, and that. But there's a possibility that Man United, could go back in for him. I think he would be the right solution for Manchester United. I think Christian Eriksen is predominantly an attacking midfielder, well Premier League proven. Obviously, he's served 6 years there with Tottenham. I think he's now into his 7th season as a Tottenham player. I don't think he's far away from making 300 appearances for Tottenham in all competitions. I think at this moment he's made about 278 appearances in all competitions. I think he's scored around just under 70 goals for Tottenham in all competitions. Obviously, I think Tottenham only paid around, was it 11 or 12 million pounds for him from Ajax back in 2013. And I think how old is he? Is he age 27 or is he age 28? Christian Eriksen. But yeah, I think Tottenham initially early on this summer demanded a substantial amount for him. I think they wanted around 130 million, but I think they actually reduced their asking price and they wanted around maybe 60 or 70 million pounds for him as well. So I think he would be the right calibre player for Manchester United. But it is good, that we are making plans for the January window. But like I mentioned, we haven't, been competitive enough, at least in the last 4 to 5 windows. Obviously, wasn't only competitive enough this summer. I think, looking back at the previous windows, we didn't get anyone back in January. Reflecting back last summer, we didn't get our number 1 targets, back under the Jose Mourinho, Moreira and that. So for me, we just haven't been ruthless enough. We'll see what happens anyway. Probably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, maybe giving until January, like I said. But like I mentioned earlier on in the video, these, in my opinion, these still problematic players at the football club that do need to be moved on. And obviously, the vast majority of our players that have left this summer have obviously gone to Italy. So in that aspect, Italy has been a very, popular destination and that. You can say, obviously, Manchester United have obviously, we have had a lot of injuries, we can obviously, take that into account, but, it's not an excuse, the way that, Manchester United have been performing, right? The good news is that, obviously the vast majority of the players that are injured now, obviously, most, they're going to be back for the game against Liverpool after the international break. So, obviously, Anthony Martial and Luke Shaw, and that's going to be back. Obviously, Martial and Luke Shaw, of course, have missed their last 6 games for Manchester United, or is it last 7 games in all competitions due to their injuries. I think Martial's obviously been out with a thigh injury, Luke Shaw's been out with a hamstring injury, so that them 2 players haven't played, since the 2-1 defeat to Crystal Palace earlier on in the season. So Martial and Luke Shaw, of course, haven't played for quite a while and that, but we're doing all that. They are 2 imperative players. Paul Pogba, obviously, he got further assessed, due to the recurrence of his foot injury that he had sustained in the 1-1 draw with Southampton earlier on in the season. It has confirmed that he's been further assessed, like I mentioned, and it's been revealed that he has got a cracked toe as Pogba. I still think Paul Pogba should be available for the game against Liverpool. I think Lingard will will be back because obviously Lingard's recently been out with a hamstring problem. Obviously Lindelof's recently been out with a back injury. This is why I think Lindelof had missed the 1-0 defeat to Newcastle. I think Mason Greenwood's also got a back injury. Phil Jones, obviously, he's been injured as well. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka is expected to be back for Liverpool. He's obviously now been out with illness as Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, he's a very imperative player, is Wan-Bissaka. Obviously, he is our first choice right back. He is our first choice right back, is Wan-Bissaka. And a lot of people believe, he has been one of our most consistent signings so far. And I think if he continues the good performances up, his valuation will persistently grow. But yeah, he has been out with tonsillitis and that as, Wan-Bissaka. So he's missed the last 3 games for Manchester United in all competitions. We know Eric Bailly will be back for Liverpool. He's out with an knee injury, I think, until the end of December or the new year. I think, obviously Fosu Mensah is still out with injury. But yeah, we've had a lot of injuries, but you can't use that as an excuse, like I mentioned. But like I said, a lot of things need to improve. We need to create more chances. We need to score more goals because this season, we've only scored 9 goals in 8 Premier League games. In the last 2 games, I think obviously failed to register a single shot on target and that. So this is not Manchester United, of course. That I am watching, but like I said, Solskjaer is our 4th permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era. Obviously, he's our 4th permanent manager since the Alex Ferguson era. And like I did initially say, we haven't really got the structure to keep sacking managers, despite the fact we've already sacked 3 managers, since the Alex Ferguson era. But I want his tenure to become successful at Manchester United, but I know his tenure is obviously not going to become successful. I do believe, he will be gone by Christmas. I think also, a lot of industries, believe he will be gone by Christmas and that. But not all the blame stems from the manager, but like I did take into account, with Alex Ferguson, that, don't forget, Ferguson, when he first came into Manchester United, when he got recommended in from Aberdeen, back in 1984, and that, Ferguson, didn't win out in his first 4 years at the football club and that, and that's, you can take that into account and that, but obviously we know back in the old generation, the boards, were nowhere near as ruthless as they are now, back in the old generation, managers got the time that they would have liked, but we know now in this generation, managers, don't get the time, that of course they would like. But yeah, Ferguson was actually 1 game away from getting the sack at that current time and didn't. And then look what he went and accomplished. We had 20 odd years of success under him. Obviously, the vast majority of the trophies we've won obviously came under him because I think Ferguson, won around 38 trophies. But no one, Solskjaer can't invoke Ferguson's legacy at Manchester United and that. But obviously, Solskjaer obviously believes that Ferguson, transformed him into a winner. And Solskjaer did initially say that he was obviously, following Alex Ferguson's philosophy. This is what he said. But, some people have got some sympathy still for Solskjaer because obviously I've got to be honest as well, and I've got to agree on this aspects that, this is the worst Manchester United team I've seen in this generation, for so many years and that. And like I said, we had a fantastic team back under the Alex Ferguson era. Like I mentioned, there's still a couple of players here, from the Alex Ferguson era. There's Jones here from the Ferguson era. There's Ashley Young here from the Ferguson era. Still there's De Gea here from the Ferguson era. And we have got long-serving players at the football club, and we've also had long-serving players that have obviously now left Manchester United and that. But yeah, but now we know this is, Ferguson obviously developed a lot of young players and that. He still spent money, but developed a lot of young players and that. But we had a great team back under Ferguson, but we know now, we are aware that this is a different era with different players, different groups, of course, that Manchester United are building. So maybe Solskjaer does need to be given more time, to make further more investment. And, obviously he wants to build a team that he thinks, can win trophies and, of course, that can obviously, be competitive in that. So maybe he does need a bit more time in that aspect. But like I said, I don't think he's going to last at Manchester United, unfortunately. Obviously, if the club do decide to sack him, obviously, he's going to be the 4th manager to be sacked since the Alex Ferguson era. But like I did say, it's actually worse under the Solskjaer era, than what obviously what it was under the Mourinho era, and it was bad enough under the Jose Mourinho era because obviously Jose Mourinho had a 2.5 year tenure at Manchester United, if you do remember rightly. He had a 2.5 year tenure at the football club. Obviously, he's actually been the longest serving manager at Manchester United since the Alex Ferguson era and that. But I explained the reasons why it didn't work out under Mourinho. Mourinho spent a substantial amount at the club. He spent just under £400 million on 11 players. Obviously, but the reasons it didn't work out under him, despite the fact that I won the Europa League and the League Cup in his first season with Manchester United, is because obviously he had bad disputes with the board and he had bad disputes with the top players. Obviously the board weren't backing the signings that I wanted to recommend into the football club last summer. There was no the philosophy wasn't right. It was part of the bus football under Mourinho, and these are the reasons why it didn't work out under him. I know back in the old generation that Mourinho was regarded as one of the best managers in the world. Obviously, he's won stuff and that, everywhere he's been. So he has got that proven pedigree. But I think, that was a mistake for Manchester United. I think we recommended Mourinho in too late. I think we should have recommended him in after Alex Ferguson's retirement. Then maybe if we had done, it would have been a different scenario with Manchester United. And like I mentioned, one mistake Ferguson did make wasn't appointing Jose Mourinho in. The mistake he did make was from recommending David Moyes in. He should have never ever recommended David Moyes in. But obviously at the time that Ferguson thought Moyes would have been the right candidate for Manchester United. Obviously reflecting what he did at Everton. And I'd never won out in terms of silverware, but obviously did quite well with Everton. But obviously not Everton are an average team. He served around 9 or was it 10 years with Everton or something like that. But Moyes only lasted 10 months at Manchester United. Obviously, he's had the shortest tenure at the club since the Alex Ferguson era and that. So these mistakes that Manchester United have done in years, in the last 6 or 7 years. I think another mistake Man United did was getting rid of Ander Herrera. We should have never got rid of Ander Herrera during the summer because, you could arguably say that Ander Herrera was one of our best players since, the Alex Ferguson era and that. He was one of our best players was Ander Herrera and, it even infuriated me more Man United getting rid of him on a free transfer, let his contract run down and that. We shouldn't have let his contract run down, but obviously, we didn't get in the new contract that we wanted because obviously, the club weren't willing to meet his wage demands. But Ander Herrera is arguably one of our best players since the Alex Ferguson era. Don't forget the club paid just under £30 million for him from Bilbao. But yeah, look, this is a good start. Last season we won all our games, or the vast majority of our games, when Ander Herrera was playing. So that just indicates out how much of an impact, of course, that he did make. But yeah, he was a very, very good player. So yeah, obviously, where the clubs have made a mistake quite a lot of times. Like I did say though, a lot of players have underperformed so far this season and that, and I think Rashford's been very, very poor this season. He's enjoyed a really, really bad start to this season. I think prior to the Chelsea game and the games throughout pre-season, I think he's been very, very poor there this season. Rashford needs a reality check and he needs to step up to the plate. But let's be honest, the vast majority of this Manchester United team do need a reality check. But with Rashford, I still think he's the long-term solution for Manchester United, in my opinion, even though he has been really, really poor so far this season. Obviously, not too long ago, he had a groin problem. But, Rashford's enjoyed a really difficult time for quite some time now, and in comparison to his time, when he first broke into the senior squad, Rashford so far has obviously spent, the entirety of his career with Manchester United. Now he won't spend, the rest of his career from now with Manchester United and that. I think he will move on eventually, especially if his bad run of form, does continue to persist and that. But I still say a lot of people believe that Rashford is overrated, to be quite honest with you. But Rashford and Martial can both play in the same positions, and that's so they are compatible in that aspect. Rashford can play centrally, can play out wide. Martial can play centrally, and of course can play out wide. But obviously it got confirmed at the start of the season that obviously Anthony Martial is being given that number 9 shirt. For me, even though Martial predominantly plays out wide on the left, I think Martial, seems to be more effective in that number 9 position, in my opinion. So he's more of the, effective, centrally. So yeah, Rashford needs to step up to the plate. Lingard, he hasn't performed to the standards as we all expected. Reflecting on Jesse Lingard's status at the football club, his performances, do need to improve. And he's on around over 100 odd grand a week. Like I mentioned, he's recently been out with a hamstring problem. My overarching view on Paul Pogba is now, obviously, he's missed quite a few games this season, due to injury, but I think in the games that Paul Pogba has played so far this season, he has been a huge disappointment. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, Paul Pogba has not exceeded expectations at Manchester United as we all thought he would have done, reflecting back, what he did when he was at Juventus and that, because he did, I thought he had a great tenure at Juventus. He had 4 great years with them. Like I said, Paul Pogba should be back for Liverpool. Obviously, Manchester United, did pay around £89 million for Paul Pogba. So, obviously, he is our most expensive signing. Obviously, recent reports speculated out saying that, Manchester United have become infuriated with Paul Pogba's contract, because obviously recent reports did say that Paul Pogba is demanding a substantial 600 grand a week from the football club. If he's to renew his contract at Manchester United, 600 grand a week, equates to around 30 million pounds a year. I can't see Manchester United, willing to meet these wage demands. So I still believe that Paul Pogba is one of the players that will leave the football club either in January. If he doesn't leave in January, I think he will leave next summer. But Paul Pogba on his current deal at the moment, he's on around 290 grand a week. So he's got 2 years left in his contract at Manchester United, his current contract, with an option, to extend it by a further year. But 290 grand a week, so that means in the aspect he's still now, as it stands, one of the highest paid players at the football club. I don't think Paul Pogba has yet scored this season. I think he obviously provided a couple of assists. But yeah, Paul Pogba's now into his 4th season as a Manchester United player. And like I said, he's mainly enjoyed a difficult time at the club in comparison, to his time, when he was at Juventus. But we do know that Paul Pogba was subjected to intense speculation, throughout the course of the summer. Obviously, Real Madrid were relentlessly linked with him. Obviously, there was quite a few other clubs in for him, but it was mainly Real Madrid. And that I did say his move to Real Madrid during the summer never materialised due to the substantial amount, we put on him, because we quoted out that wanted around 180 million. Obviously, Real Madrid were reluctant to pay that, because Real Madrid themselves during the summer, spent a substantial amount. They spent around £300 million on 5 players. Obviously, they did sell some players, I think Madrid, so they did generate, some of the money back. But Real Madrid were not willing to pay up to £180 million. But Paul Pogba did say back in June, early on this summer, that he classified Real Madrid as one of the biggest clubs in the world, and I think he's keen on playing under Zinedine Zidane's guidance. And he also did say that he wanted to leave Manchester United. He did say he was seeking for a new challenge, and publicly admitted that he did want to leave the football club. But I said it hasn't only been this summer it hadn't only been this summer that there was a lot of talks about him leaving. Obviously, reflecting back last summer, there was a lot of talks about Paul Pogba leaving. Obviously, reflecting on his poor relationship with Jose Mourinho. And Paul Pogba got one of his best wishes, of course, when Jose Mourinho had left the football club. But we have seen Paul Pogba, definitely at his best as a Manchester United player. You mainly see the best of Paul Pogba when he's freed up. We mainly saw the best of Pogba in that 3-month period when Solskjaer was the interim manager. But Paul Pogba's only 26, and he has still got a lot of development minimum that. But still got a hell of a lot of development in him as Paul Pogba and that. But yeah, I think, he probably will leave in January or next summer. I still think, we're very, very adamant, that Paul Pogba, will not be for sale in January, because deep down, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does know how much an imperative player he is. But yeah, he needs a reality check, and, when he obviously comes back from injury, which I think he will be soon, he needs to really, really step up to the plate, does Paul Pogba. I think, again, Matic, he's a problematic player for the football club. I think, in the games he's played this season, he's been very, very poor in that. And I think Manchester United need to consider moving Matic on in January or next summer. very, very poor play, and I think analysing his tenure at Manchester United, he's been very inconsistent. He's now into his third season as a Manchester United player. He's Matic. And like I did say, we could try and get rid of him in January and cash in for him, but mate, we probably will lose him on a free transfer next summer if we can't sell him in January, because obviously Matic's current contract term expires at the end of the season, but we do have an option to extend his contract by further a year. But Matic, I've got so many element of concerns about him. He's too slow, makes that midfielder look totally imbalanced. Also, he's 31 years of age now, he's Matic, so he's aging up and he isn't getting any younger. He isn't even first choice anymore. He was last season, but this season he isn't. He's initially lost his place in the team, to a Scott McTominay, where Matic is on, like I mentioned, he's only been playing regular recently due to the absentee of Paul Pogba mainly. So he needs to be definitely now moved on. But yeah, I think these actually though some players that have performed really, really well this season, even though we've had a really bad start to the season. Like I said, the three signs we brought in have done really, really well. They've all settled in very, very well. I think McTominay's done mainly well. I thought he had a poor game against Newcastle last time out, but I think prior to that game, I think McTominay stepped up to the plate. Like I said, I don't know if he can keep the consistency up. And if in regards to him being a long-term solution for Man United, I have got an element of concerns about that. But yeah, he's deserved to keep his place in the team. McTominay, McTominay, of course, is only 22 years of age. Fred's had the odd couple. He's had a good couple of games, but I think prior to that, he hasn't, performed, to the standards as we all basically, want to see in that. Obviously, but Fred has obviously, not performed to the same sort of level, as he did do at Shakhtar Donetsk, because obviously, he was an exceptional player at Shakhtar Donetsk. Maybe we should give Fred a bit more time. The club paid just under £50 million to him last summer, from Shakhtar Donetsk, as you all know. But to be fair to Fred, he never really got the opportunity under the Jose Mourinho era. Obviously, my opinions on Andres Pereira. Obviously, he needs to improve as well. I think he's had one good game this season, and that, was the game against Arsenal. Obviously, in the league, I thought he had a really, really good game against Arsenal. He's played on the right-hand side quite a few times this season. I'd still give, Andres Pereira more time. But like I did mention, I don't think all the young upcoming players, will become a success at Manchester United. I think maybe we should orchestrate on maybe getting rid of some of the young upcoming players, maybe, loan some of them out, because maybe they're not good enough to represent Manchester United, or, it may gain them more experience in that. But I think, there's some young upcoming players that will become a success at Man United. I can assure that I think Mason Greenwood's going to become a success at the football club. Obviously, Mason Greenwood, don't forget, only made his... Mason Greenwood, only made his full debut for the football club at the end of last season in the 2-0 home defeat to Cardiff. And, he did well throughout pre-season. And in the games he's played in this season, he's been fantastic. He's made 6 substitute appearances so far this season in the Premier League. So he's not yet started a game from the start in the Premier League. He did start in the games against Rochdale and FC Astana, where he did, perform really, really well, scoring obviously them 2 particular games. Came up with a moment of quality. But I think, by the time what Mason Greenwood was 23, 24, I think he can become a world-class centre-forward for Manchester United. But, like I said, I think, he will become a success at the football club without a shadow of a doubt. Turned 18 years of age at the beginning of this month. We played him on the right-hand side, I think, in the last couple of games. But I think, he's better in a number 9, in my opinion. And taking the number 9 role into the equation of Mason Greenwood and Rashford, I think is a much better solution than Marcus Rashford, without a shadow of a doubt. I've got some element of concerns about Chong. Chong, in my opinion, is totally a comparison to Mason Greenwood. Totally comparison, to Mason Greenwood, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think the club maybe needs to orchestrate on loaning him out, or maybe even getting rid of him. Don't forget, he did receive loan offers this summer from PSV with his former club, Feyenoord, but obviously turned down these loan offers because he wants to stay at Manchester United at least for this season. Angel Gomez, don't forget, he's another one of our midfield options. Obviously, you've got Another young upcoming player, we've got Tuanzebe. I believe I've got the same thoughts about Tuanzebe as what I've got of Mason Greenwood. I also believe Axel Tuanzebe will become a success at Manchester United. His versatility is very, very good as well. He is predominantly a centre back, but he can also, play as a full back. He actually played at left back in the 1-1 draw with Arsenal. Obviously played at centre back alongside Maguire in the 1-0 defeat to Newcastle. So now he's getting more chances under his belt, which is very, very good to see. But he will become a success at the club. You've got Jimmy Garner. He's another young upcoming player. I don't think he's yet played this season, Jimmy Garner. I think he played a couple of times, throughout pre-season. You've got Diego Dallo. He's played a couple of times this season. I think he's only played twice this season. Don't forget Diego Dallo has actually sustained quite a few injuries. I think he's injured at the moment. He had a groin injury, don't forget, earlier on in the season. But he's obviously one of our backup options at that full-back position. He needs more time. I think he's only, 2021. Got him from Porto last summer for around, 19 or 20 million pounds. We've obviously got Brandon Williams. Obviously, he's another young upcoming player. He actually played at left back in the 0-0 draw against AZ Alkmaar. But yeah, got a lot of young upcoming players in the squad. Like I said, we've also got a lot of experienced players in the squad. But like I said, we haven't only spent big on players in the last 6 or 7 years. I think in the last 6 or 7 years, around 700 odd, or is it 800 odd million pounds that's been invested into the football club in all the managerial eras since the Ferguson era. So that's just under £1 billion we spent on players, and that's not taking into account what was spent under Alex Ferguson. But now we have also got players on substantial wages at the football club. Like I said, you've got Rashford on 300 grand a week. He signed a new contract earlier on in the summer, did Rashford. You've got Martial on 200 grand a week. He signed a new 5-year deal back in January. You've got Harry Maguire. He's on around 200 grand a week. I think is he on a 5-year deal? I think he's on a 6-year deal with an option of a third year, if I'm right. But yeah, he's on 200 grand a week. You've got Pogba on just under 300 grand a week. We've got De Gea, who's obviously early on in the summer signed a new 4-year deal with an option of a further year. He's on now 375 grand a week. Obviously, David De Gea is the highest paid goalkeeper in the world now. But I'm glad, we did get him that new contract. And, we've got a lot of players new contracts. I'm happy that we give certain players contracts, but I'm not... I'm not happy, that we give, some other players contracts that we shouldn't have given. Like I said, Jones signed a new long-term contract last season. Jones shouldn't have been given a new long-term contract. Young signed a new 1-year extension last season. I do believe they're two players that do need to be moved on, in January or next summer. Because obviously Jones and Young have been two long-serving players here. They've been here more or less the same amount of time they've been here, because Jones and Young are both in their 9 seasons now as Manchester United players, so they have been here just under a decade. At Tom, where we give him a new long-term contract last season, some people say we shouldn't give him a new long-term contract. I think we also give Andres Pereira a new contract earlier on in the summer. Don't forget the football club give Juan Mata a new contract earlier on in the summer. I was happy that Juan Mata stayed, because obviously at one point it was looking very, very imminent that Juan Mata, was going to be leaving the football club. Obviously, there was a lot of talks about him making a return back to Spain, because obviously, when Juan Mata was a lot younger, he began his career in Spain, and that spent a lot of years when he was younger in Spain, in Madrid and Valencia. But like I mentioned, since he's come to the Premier League, he's teared the Premier League apart, and that, before he came to United, he had two and a half good years with Chelsea. And then obviously, I think he's been fantastic since he's come to Manchester United. He's been here 5 years. He's now into his 6th season at the football club. Obviously we know that Juan Mata's no longer a first team regular in that. He will still get them chances off the bench. But for me, you could arguably say he's one of our best players, he's Mata, because I think in a couple of games this season he's done quite well. He did well in a couple of games towards the back end of last season. When he does play in that number 10, he seems to do quite well. He can play in the number 10. He can also play out wide. But we did give him a new 2-year contract early on in the summer with an option to extend it by a further year. And he's 31 years of age. I think Juan Mata's actually now nearly 32 years of age. But yeah, so I'm happy that we did, get some players, some contract renewals and that. Don't forget as well, Manchester United loaned a couple of goalkeepers out. Obviously, Dean Henson went out on loan to Sheffield United. Joe Pereira went out on loan to Hearts. We've got Lee Grant. He's still here. He's one of the backup options. Got him from Stoke last summer. We've got Sergio Romero. He's our second choice goalkeeper. Obviously, like I said, not reliable enough to become our number one. Romero obviously gets the chances in the Cup and the Europa League games, and that mainly, doesn't he? But Romero still got 2 years left on his contract, I think, with Man United, with an option of a further year. But I think, he's under contract till 2021, but I think there's an option of a further year. So like I said, I think Manchester United need at least 5 or 6 more signings. If we are to be back, if we are to be back to being title contenders, and of course if we are, to be back to being a competitive elite level football club. So we need to see a massive rebuild at the club, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. Like I mentioned, there has been a lot of talks about Max Allegri coming into Manchester United. I think he's actually our primary candidate, and he's our number one priority to replace Solskjaer at the football club. I think Max Allegri, is actually interested in taking the Man United job. Recent reports did say, though, he'll only come to Manchester United if he is to be assured the job within the next few weeks and that. Obviously, Max Allegri, I think, has been learning English in preparation for his potential move. Obviously, he stepped down. He hasn't been managerless for long because Max Allegri stepped down as Juventus manager earlier on in the summer. Obviously served 5 years with Juventus and obviously won the vast majority of his silverware with Juventus. Obviously got Juventus to 2 Champions League finals. Obviously so far he has spent the entirety of his managerial career in Italy. Entirety of his career in Italy, managerial career. Obviously spent the entirety of his playing career in Italy, and he's been managing now for just over 16 years, because I think he began his managerial career in 2003. Obviously, I think he's in his, 53, 54 years of age. I know that he's in his 50s, but he's the club's priority. There's other managers that have been mentioned, though. There's Pochettino, he's been spoken about so far. Obviously, there's Brendan Rodgers, he's been mentioned. Some Man United fans, would like to recommend Arsene Wenger in. But it's probably likely, though, that we won't sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, at least for this present time anywhere. At least for this present time anywhere. But yeah, Manchester United against Liverpool, he's going to be a really, really, big game. I might even later on, soon, do, my starting 11 prediction for the game, give you, my score predictions and that for the game. I might do that, soon or later on today. But yeah, it's going to be a big game. Like I said, obviously we're going to be massive underdogs, going into that game, because obviously, Liverpool have so far this season got a 100% record. Obviously, they've registered 24 points out of 24, because obviously, they've won all 8 games so far this season. But I think they're going to win the league this season. They've never won the Premier League since it got founded in 92-93. They haven't won it all in all for around 3 decades. But, Liverpool, like I mentioned, Liverpool's record at Old Trafford's really, really bad. They haven't won at Old Trafford, they have won at Old Trafford twice in the last 10 years in the Premier League, that is. The last time they beat us was 3-0. That was nearly 6 years ago now, and that was back under the David Moyes era. The other time they beat us, obviously, was 4-1 back in 2009. But yeah, we usually do beat Liverpool at Old Trafford. Obviously, it was actually 0-0 last season and that. But I can't wait for the game, because, it's still a massive game, even though we know that Liverpool are, strides ahead of us at this moment in time. They've been better than us at least for the last couple of years, and but it's still always a big game. It's always an iconic fixture. The 2 most successful clubs in England, historically in that. But yeah, I always like games between Manchester United and Liverpool. But yeah, I will do the video soon, like I mentioned that. And and Solskjaer's obviously recently come out, and I like his honesty as well, because obviously he's aware of how bad Manchester United are doing, and he basically said this situation now is not as bad as the situation last season, when we got absolutely, humiliated at Everton, by 4-0, which was back in April. Obviously, it was last season. And after that particular game, Solskjaer, if you remember rightly, did come out and apologised and all that. And obviously Solskjaer recently accused, I think, all our players of trying to get him the sack, because I think maybe the vast majority of our players, or all our players, don't want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, at the football club. But the club are still retaining their support for Solskjaer anyway. I think they're backing him more in January, and maybe perhaps next summer. Yeah. So anyway, guys, drop your comments, likes on the channel. If you do consider subscribe, as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.